A village girl was humiliated for her cheap clothes, but it turned out she was the new CEO. What if a new employee mocked from day one isn't who they seem? What if the quiet, unnoticed girl in a worn jacket isn't an intern but the new CEO, who decided to test her company's culture from the inside? Before we begin the story, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from today. Early morning. The damp air smells of coffee and polish. In front of a glass skyscraper, people line up in formal suits, identical briefcases, and the same facial expression. I know where I'm going. Only one figure stands out, a girl in a dark green worn-out jacket, carrying an old cloth bag over her shoulder. At the entrance, the guard gives her a look, not asking for ID, just, "Delivery?" "No," she calmly replies. "I'm here for HR." He presses his lips together, says nothing, but lets her through. The elevator goes up to the top floors. Each stop filters people out. The higher, the more expensive the shoes. She looks at the screens, the door panels, people's behavior. She remembers it all silently. In the hallway, she's met by Richard, the head of HR, tall, confident, wearing a smile that's more condescending than welcoming. "You're Emma?" he asks, as if unsure he heard right. "Yes, Emma Parker. Today is my first day." He pauses, scans her from head to toe, slowly, casually, like looking at a dent in someone else's car. Then, loudly enough for others to hear, "Well, we do like unconventional people here. I hope you'll be able to adapt. Though, not everything is forgiven in this office." A few people behind him snicker. Emma nods. Not a muscle moves on her face. They lead her through the open space, a long hall of endless rows of desks. People turn around. Someone whispers, "Farm girl, in training? Why isn't she in a suit?" They seat her in the far corner, near the printer. A stack of papers on the desk. "You'll start with this," Richard says. "Sort it by department. Then grab coffee for the meeting. And try not to get lost." He walks off, leaving behind a faint trail of cologne and arrogance. The first days feel like being under a microscope. She knows how to open the CRM? Where did she even study? Who hired her? The tasks are meaningless. Print the same contract over and over, deliver reports no one reads. In the meeting room, she stands with a tray of coffee while they discuss million-dollar budget. No one notices her. But she hears everything. Emma endures. She says nothing. Every evening, she's the last to leave. Not because she's forced to, but because she stays by the computer. Many internal files are open and unchecked. No one monitors her. Everyone assumes she doesn't understand. But she does. She reads reports. She checks budgets. She notices. The marketing department is ineffective, the product strategy outdated. New ideas in IT get crushed. People are afraid to speak. She records everything in a spreadsheet with facts. A week later, Lena, a junior analyst, approaches her. "Hey, are you really from the countryside?" she asks, not mockingly, but with curiosity. "Yes," Emma replies. "I grew up there, but studied in the capital." "How did you get in here?" "Applied. Passed the selection. Like everyone else." Lena nods, still unsure why someone like Emma would be here. At one meeting, Richard pokes again. "Emma, maybe tomorrow you'll get a chance to tell us who you really are?" He laughs, expecting her to back out. But she simply says, "All right." He freezes for a split second, then smiles wider. "Great. Then prepare, everyone will be there in the morning." That night, the lights stay on in the office late. Emma stays alone. Before her is a screen, slides, spreadsheets, charts, logic, and truth. She's ready. But no one else is ready for what's coming. The next morning starts like any other, hallways filled with footsteps, coffee machines humming, hushed conversations. The elevator rises with the same clean-shaven faces, the same shiny shoes. But today, their expressions hold anticipation. Emma is going to say something. No one knows what, but everyone senses it. You think she even knows how to speak in public? whispers one marketing manager. I bet she practiced in a panic last night in front of a mirror, giggles another. When Emma enters the conference room, there's no panic, no show. A simple gray shirt, black pants, hair tied back, her old bag beside her. The screen is already up. Lena, the same junior analyst, helped her connect. Not out of pity, but because she sensed something. The room is nearly full, most of the admin team is there. Richard stands in the corner, arms confidently crossed. He's sure it'll be entertaining. Humiliation always draws a crowd. Good morning, Emma says calmly. I'm Emma Parker. And as requested, I'd like to tell you a bit about myself. Pause. On the screen, a white background, a simple title, Culture and Growth, an inside look. Someone snickers. Instead of talking about myself, she continues, I decided to share what I've observed in my first week, honestly, without sugarcoating and with suggestions. Richard narrows his eyes. He feels control slipping. First, marketing. On screen, a chart, redundant spending marked in red, outdated channels. Company ROI has dropped significantly. This isn't the staff's fault, she says. It's a lack of strategy. No segmentation. We are hitting emptiness, whispers fill the hall. The second product slide compares features of our platform and competitors. Our functionality is outdated. User analytics haven't been updated for over a year. Meanwhile, competitors have moved ahead, especially in mobile solutions. Where did you get this data? Someone from IT couldn't handle it, from open sources and internal analytics. It's unprotected. Even an intern can see it. By the way, that's the third point, information security. Pause. Emma takes a sip of water. No one is giggling anymore in the room. Last but not least, culture. Now on screen is a slide without text, just a photo of the office. Workspaces are empty, with vacant looks. Separately, the smoking area photo and next to it a diagram of communication flows. Who talks to whom, who listens to whom, who is afraid. People are afraid to speak, afraid to make mistakes, afraid to be themselves. Smiles are polite but not genuine. Yet this is the main brake on the company. Not the market, not competitors. It's ourselves. Silence. I know what you're thinking now. How does she know? Who is she anyway? She stopped. I'm nobody formally, just new. She simply sat in a corner and listened. Richard leaned forward. It was clear he was about to interrupt, but she spoke first. I have experience. I worked with systems that refused to change until it was too late. I saw how a culture built on fear kills talent. And I know that if we say nothing, nothing will change. At that moment, as if pre-planned, Emma clicks to the last slide. It lists specific proposals. Restructuring the marketing strategy, relaunching the product team with priority on mobile UX, open forums and anonymous surveys, KPI review, and implementing internal mentoring. Silence lasted for several seconds. Even the air conditioner seemed quieter. That's all I wanted to say, she finished, turned off the screen, packed her bag, and was almost out of the room when a voice called after her. It was Richard, his voice harsh, his face tense. Who gave you access to the analytics? And who said you could be doing this instead of your job? Emma calmly turned around. No one. But I'm used to working based on substance, not instructions. If I broke rules, I'm ready to take responsibility. But then you should also report on the last months. He said nothing. She left. People in the room sat silently. Some felt shame, some confusion, others a strange relief. During the day, uncertainty reigned in the office. Everyone waited to see what would happen next. Emma returned to her desk, at the printer. Nobody laughed anymore. Lena approached with coffee. Did you know it would be like this? I just told the truth, Emma replied, and it seemed she had landed exactly where she needed to. That evening, Richard summoned her to his spacious glass office overlooking the city. You've come far for a newcomer, he said, folding his hands. I didn't come to be a newcomer, she answered. He didn't understand what she meant yet. The next morning, a strange silence filled the office. Everyone kept working as if nothing had happened, but something had changed. People started looking more often toward the corner where Emma sat, not mockingly, but with concern and interest. Richard acted as if nothing had happened. His face showed the usual confidence, but his movements became sharper, his voice louder. He wasn't used to losing control, especially in front of colleagues. He started acting, first passively. Emma lost access to shared folders. Her email suddenly stopped working. IT programmers said it was a temporary glitch. Then the printer by her desk was temporarily turned off. Then began a wave of indirect pressure. In meetings where she used to sit silently with a tray of coffee, now she was demonstratively excluded. Lena received a reprimand, supposedly for unauthorized help. Someone in the smoking area said, "She just wants attention. Why is she even here?" But Emma didn't argue or complain. She worked and kept gathering information late every night in the office. She had a plan, and time was on her side. A week later, an unexpected visitor came to the office, Mikhail Vorontsov, deputy chairman of the board of directors. His visits were usually not publicized. He walked the floors, talked to managers, asked questions. On the 21st floor near the conference hall, he noticed a girl by the coffee machine. "Emma Parker?" he asked. She nodded. "I have one question. Why don't you use your position?" She looked at him silently, then calmly answered. "Because I wanted to see the truth, not through reports and numbers, but through people." He looked at her attentively. "You saw it, yes. Now I know where to start." He nodded and smiled slightly. "Then let's begin." The next day, an anonymous email came, urgent style, no subject. "Tomorrow is a mandatory general meeting to approve new management." This caused a wave of rumors. Some said a new top manager was being appointed, others that the company was to be sold, some guessed Richard would be promoted. No one guessed close. The meeting hall was full. People stood by the walls, sat on window sills. There was a hum of expectation. Vorontsov came out, greeted briefly, announced changes were coming, and called the person who would now represent the board. "Please welcome the new CEO of the company, Emma Parker." The hall froze for a second, 2, 3. Then whispers started. Someone exhaled loudly. Someone laughed. Uncertainly, nervously. Emma stepped forward. Same shirt, same straight posture, same calm eyes. "Good morning," she said. "Today I stand here not to seek revenge, nor to prove I am worthy." She shifted her gaze to Richard. He turned pale, his lips trembled, but he remained silent. "I am here because I want us to start speaking honestly with each other, because I see this company has potential. It's just buried under fear, corporate showmanship, and a habit of hypocrisy." Silence, not a single sound. "I didn't come here straight away as a director. I started from the bottom consciously to see the culture as it really is, and I saw how people laughed behind backs, how those who are different were boycotted, how leaders punished initiative, how fear lived." Pause. "But I also saw something else. People who can, who want to, who are silent not because they don't care, but because they are afraid to be heard." She stepped forward. "From today, everything changes." Later that day, Richard's office was temporarily closed. He was suspended pending an internal investigation but not fired. When he entered the elevator, his gaze met hers. Emma did not look away. He stepped closer. "Did you come for my head?" "No. I came for justice," she answered calmly. "You have a chance, but only if you are ready to change." He stood silently, and in that moment something in him trembled. The smug smile disappeared, leaving only a frightened, broken man, maybe not entirely. In the evening, when most employees had left, Lena approached Emma. "Is it true? Are you really the CEO?" "Yes," she answered, "but it means nothing if we don't start listening to each other." Lena smiled. "I'm glad you're you." Emma nodded. "And I'm glad you stayed real." The day after the announcement, Emma disappeared. No meetings, no corridors, no cafe on the first floor. The team worried in different ways. Some thought she was suspended, some saw it as a PR stunt, others hoped she changed her mind, but most simply didn't know what to do next because all boundaries that seemed impenetrable were broken. Meanwhile, in an empty office on the top floor, Emma sat in front of a whiteboard filled with marker note. Before her lay a plan for cultural transformation, not slogans or missions and values, but real steps from introducing anonymous forums to analyzing power hierarchies. On the desk were printed anonymous employee feedback reports she had asked to collect before the presentation through the internal system, but not under her name. She read them not as a director but as a person. I am afraid to speak in meetings. Any word can be used against me. My ideas are taken and claimed as someone else's. The management pretends I don't exist. Once I told the truth and was demoted. I just need to survive till payday, not to grow or find meaning, just till payday. She read those lines with a stone face, but something ached inside her. Not pity, but anger, impersonal, structural, because these voices were not an accident, they were the system. 3 days later, she reappeared at the office unannounced, just walked into the open workspace, and stood by the first desk she saw. "We will have a new format of communication," she said. "Every day I will hold short open sessions here, not in an office. Anyone can come, ask questions, express opinions anonymously or openly." People exchanged glances. Her first session started. If no one came within 15 minutes, it meant everything was fine and she was wrong, and she would leave. She went behind the kitchen counter where a stool and a whiteboard were set up. 10 minutes passed with no one. 15, an IT guy from the third department arrived. 5 minutes later, a designer with a dissatisfied face came. Then Lena. Then 2 more. And after 40 minutes, more people gathered than at a regular meeting. Emma sat calmly, taking notes, not interrupting, not arguing, not defending. She listened. Why do bonuses go to the loudest, not the hardest workers? Why does no leader know the names of the rank and file? Why are we afraid to send emails to the boss without approval? Emma wrote silently, then said, "Because the system allowed it, but from today, no more." Within a week, the company launched an internal platform for ideas and complaints. Anonymous, no ratings, only content. The best ideas were implemented, and complaints received official responses. One formerly hostile project manager approached Emma in the elevator. "I thought you were just a good actor, but you're serious." "Thank you," she smiled. "I used to think you could only change processes, but it all starts with people. And yes, I really am from a farm." Emma smiled. "My father kept bees. My mother taught at the local school. I grew up listening to adults argue not over money, but over words, over truth. Maybe that's where it started. That explains why you're not afraid." But not everyone accepted the changes. Some top managers openly sabotaged them. One day in the corridors, Richard gathered several colleagues. "She just put on a good show. Wait a few months, everything will go back. People don't change." Emma heard about this and invited Richard to her office the next day. "I'm not calling you here to fire you," she said. "I'm calling to give you a chance, but only one." He looked at her without a sneer, without condescension. "And if I don't manage it? Then we leave before they ask you to." He nodded slowly. "I'm not used to obeying. Here, no one obeys anyone. We're all in the same boat. If you want to stay, row." A couple of weeks later, Emma spoke again at the general meeting. There was no longer distrust in the room, only anticipation. "You know who I am now," she began, "but that doesn't matter. I could be anyone. The title isn't important, the meaning is." She paused. "I am not an accident, I am a choice, and so is each of you. We all have the right to a voice, not because of what we wear, but because of who we are. If you want to be heard, let's start with ourselves." The applause was restrained but genuine. Backstage, someone whispered, She's not just a director, she's a mirror. A month passed. Something changed in the company that could not be described in documents or charts. The atmosphere was different, not lighter or cleaner, but alive. In the kitchen area, employees no longer fell silent when leaders appeared. At meetings, those who once only nodded now raised their voices, not out of fear but respect. Leaders began to listen. Emma didn't implement reforms from the top. Instead, she launched working groups initiated by employees themselves. Each group included someone from management, someone from the ranks, and a neutral facilitator. Their goal was to uncover the real issues, not just the convenient ones. Open meetings appeared weekly. Any department could invite a director for discussion. It wasn't only Emma who showed up. Everyone started coming because it became clear no one was too small to speak. On the first day of spring, Emma launched a pilot mentoring program, not in the usual sense where a senior teaches a junior, but the opposite. Every new employee has the right to mentor a senior, she explained at a meeting. For 1 month, simply to remind seniors what it feels like to be unnoticed. Some laughed, but by the end of the month, people said, for the first time in many years, I began to understand what fear sounds like in a voice. I started to respect people who are still learning. To everyone's surprise, Richard didn't leave. He stayed, initially silent, then began participating in sessions. Once, during a meeting, he admitted, I laughed at what I was afraid of. Emma didn't show me weakness but a mirror. I decided not to break it but to look inside. He started leading internal trainings, not on management but on vulnerability. More people listened to him than before, though not everyone. In mid-April, Emma received an anonymous letter on plain office paper with just 3 sentences. Thank you for not giving up. I thought you were just noise, but you turned out to be a voice. She kept the letter in her desk drawer, not as a trophy but as a reminder that every nobody can become somebody. One day she appeared again at the general meeting. More people came than ever before, even those who usually ignored meetings. She stood without folders, slides, or a microphone and simply said, Everything you see now isn't my victory. It's the choice of each of you. When I came, they called me a country girl. They gave me meaningless tasks. They tested my resilience, not knowing I already knew more about you than you knew about me. She paused. People listened without looking at their phones or away. I could have immediately said who I am, put on a jacket, and said, I am your director. But then you wouldn't have shown yourselves, you'd only show what's convenient for authority. I needed the real you. She took a breath. Now I want everyone to know, it doesn't matter how you look, what matters is what you know and how you treat those weaker than you. She added, True strength is not in the suit or a loud voice, but in being yourself when everyone expects you to bend. The room was silent, not an empty silence, but the silence after powerful words, when nothing more needs to be said. Later, Lena told someone in the cafeteria, she didn't just become a leader. She made us want to become better ourselves. An IT specialist from the 3rd department responded, I used to think you had to be tough. Now I know you have to be real. A year later, the company was recognized in the industry as one of the most humane, not because of PR, but because of employees' feedback. Richard became the coordinator for internal culture. Once, during a new hiring wave, he personally met a newcomer in a worn jacket and said, No one here judges by appearance. If you want, ask Emma. The last scene of this story is an ordinary morning. Emma walks through the office, greets people, listens, laughs. Wearing an old, slightly faded jacket she never changed because she hasn't forgotten where she started. When a newcomer whispers, Who's that? They simply answer, That's our director, the most honest person you'll ever meet.